Okay, I'm not sure how all this works. I'm still kind of learning all the live mechanisms and how all this works. I believe when you log in, then I see you and you can make comments or all that as we go through. But I believe also what happens is some people will look back on my page and then watch this later, which is fine too. With that being said, I don't want it to be a video where they go back to watch it and then I'm just kind of sitting here for several minutes, right? That's no fun. So welcome everyone. And I basically wanted to just reach out to my fans and those who may be interested to talk a little bit about my experience and about Lithegol and make a couple of announcements about it. So as you can see from my post and all of that, I published Lithegol the Prophecy 2 years ago, actually yesterday. So it was the 21st is when it actually went on Amazon. And yeah, that was it was quite the process to get to that point. I've told my story before, but it involved working on Lithegol for a long period of time. In my case, close to 10 years. But what's misleading about that is I finished the first copy about probably 5 years before I published this one. Didn't like what I had, and so I went back and kind of rewrote. Didn't completely scrub what I had, but changed things quite a bit. And part of what I did, and hopefully you see that from listening to the first chapter, is I tried to create the element of suspense right out of the chute. So kind of like Hunger Games, right, where like Snow is in power at the beginning, and the main characters are really put into a conflict situation and have to act, courageously and deal with a lot of stuff, and that really brings out and draws out their character and helps them to grow and come together, which are all good things. So that's part of what I did with this version of Lithegol. It is the first in a series. I'm actually working on book 2, which is called Lithegol, the Legion Uprising, and I'm excited about it. My goal is to have the uprising finished by Christmas. That's my goal as a Christmas present to me type deal, and hopefully to others. Yeah, so I have 5 books in mind for the series, and because of the time I took to really build out the worlds and because there's a lot of this is a sci fantasy, so basically it's science fiction and fantasy, which is a daunting task, and I wouldn't recommend it to lighthearted because you're taking on double the world building, double the fantastical type elements, which can be very daunting. So the cool thing is, now that I've kind of built a lot of that out, I can create these offshoots, that take place in different parts of the galaxy, the kingdom, and these other kingdoms that I've built out with different species who have their own powers and problems and things like that. The other thing I could do after I finish this series is, and I really want to do it at some point, is create a prequel series that tells my version of King Arthur's story. Because this is a sequel to the King Arthur legend, I have a whole different take on what happened with King Arthur and what he accomplished and who he fought and how that played out, and his ending, if you will, that some of you might be familiar with from the Legend of Arthur, and kind of my take on that. So I'm excited to do that eventually. That'll be a really cool thing to take on. But part of the announcements that I said that I was going to be saying today as part of this session, what I want to do, and I'm starting it off today by reading the first chapter. And so what I'll do is I'm going to record this, and then I'll post it to YouTube. And then I just thought of something I need to do here. Sorry. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. This microphone's usually really good. So I'll post the chapters to YouTube, and my plan is to post them like at the beginning of the week, and I'll post them at the beginning of the week on a Monday morning, and then you guys will have all week. I'll post 2 chapters each week. I'll read 2 chapters on a YouTube video, and you'll have that week to catch up, to listen at your own leisure. And then come primed on Saturday, I'll have an actual and I don't know if I'm going to use Facebook. My 14-year-old tells me I'm outdated with using Facebook Live. I should use Instagram or YouTube. So stay tuned. I might do my actual live interaction session on some other medium, depending on what I figure out and what seems to work best. If you have any feedback on that and you want to kind of put that in the comments on my author page or on this video or whatever, I welcome that. It's all really about you, and what I enjoy the most as an author is interacting with young people and seeing them take on a love for reading and imagining and reaching for their dreams. All of these things, that's the gratifying part for me. And also, of course, to tell my story and have them fall in love with Michael and all the things that he goes through. One of the most meaningful comments that I got from one of my young readers was that this was one of only 2 books where he almost cried. So that was really, that meant a lot to me. That's one of the most meaningful comments I've gotten, because for someone that age, around 13 or so, to really, get that emotional about what they're reading, that means that they're vested in the character and they really care about the character and it's real to them, right? So that really meant a lot. And so that's the type of stuff that really makes it all worth it, and that I enjoy. And I've talked with a lot of different groups, and what I've done with the elementary school or the middle grade schools mostly is I go in and I teach them about creative writing, key aspects of creative writing, and I talk about my process and my experience with writing Lithegol, and then I read some excerpts to kind of illustrate, different points, like how to write good dialogue, how to carry the plot forward, and character development and setting and voice and some of these other things. So that's always fun to do that. So that's the plan. I'll get to the reading part, but so for this week, I'm not going to post chapters on Monday, because I'm going to assume people are going to listen to this and listen to the first chapter. If it doesn't come through somehow on Facebook Live the way I want it to, then I'll probably just post it on YouTube, and then put a link on my author page. I also have a website, joshulrich.com, and my Instagram is Josh Ulrich Author, so all one word, so at Josh Ulrich Author, which is the same as my Facebook. So if you know that little phrase, Josh Ulrich Author, you can get to either my Instagram or my Facebook author page. So look for that. If you can't somehow access the first chapter, or it doesn't come through, or it comes through choppy through this recording, which I'll check out, then I'll post it on YouTube and put a link out there for you guys. And so I'm anxious to hook up next Saturday. And what I'll do is I'm looking at most likely the morning time frame, looking at the morning time frame. But if you guys have a preference on that, again, as far as whether the afternoon's better, it's kind of hard with sports and stuff, because it's they do a lot of stuff in the morning, but they also do a lot of stuff in the afternoon sometimes. So there's not really a golden time. So I'm thinking about 9 o'clock-ish or so. And again, hopefully the live mechanism that I use, it'll be recorded, and then you can go back and watch it later. That's the ideal. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and I'll read the first chapter. So this is the book here. I guess I could kind of show you this, and so you guys can kind of see the book. So this is what it looks like. This is the cover. Lithegol, the Prophecy. And this is, as I mentioned, a sequel to the King Arthur legend. So it's a little different take, though. So like right here, if you're all familiar, and this is part of what I talk with the middle graders about with the legend of King Arthur, with the whole pulling the sword from the stone, this is my take on it. And actually, it's more symbolic because there actually is no sword sticking out of this. It's called the hallowed sphere, is what it's called in my book. There's actually no physical sword. But if I just put the tokens in there, like as far as what I have in the book, which are a band and a ring and an amulet called an orb inside the sphere, like they are in the book, with the ring representing Excalibur, it comes out of the ring, people wouldn't really know what it was, right? So that's why symbolically I went ahead and have the sword sticking out of the hallowed sphere like that. And then, of course, is Michael there, and you can see the dragon up above. So it's not meant to show that there's a physical dragon up above Michael. It's more kind of this symbolic kind of looming presence. And that's what he's facing with the world and the chaos and the dragons that are taking over. They're hybrids. So and this is the back. So this is the crest here. Just like with the knights of old, how they had their shield and they would have like a lion on there or something like that. This is the crest of Lithegol, the kingdom. And it actually ties in with the way that the realms work. There's different realms inside. So I could spend a lot of time kind of going through that, but this is just kind of shows you. So just like with Lord of the Rings and stuff like that, in Lithegol, keep getting the wrong hand here. With Lithegol, this is the map for Lithegol for the kingdom. So you've got the 12 realms, which have different species on them. So you've got, the fairies, the elves, the giants, and the dwarves live in these different, I call them triads, northern, western, eastern, southern triads. And then the center one, that's Prime, and the core world is Earth. So it's at the center of the kingdom. That's where we're at. So that's kind of how it works. Just a little sneak peek, kind of preview there. If you were to open the book, that's what you would see. Let's get my glasses. Anyway, thank you all for your time, for showing interest, and hopefully you enjoyed the first chapter. And for those who are interested in writing, that's awesome, or reading. That's where it starts, right? You gotta read a lot, and then you can be more comfortable writing. I would encourage you to read. There's a ton of good books out there. We can have a whole session just talking about that, actually, and I can make some recommendations. But again, thanks again, and I hope you all have a great 3-day weekend.